Rikers Island, America's most notorious prison, is set to close. Hi again, welcome back to Plain English, the best podcast for learning English. I'm Jeff, and JR is the producer. This is episode 205, and you can find the full transcript of this program at plainenglish.com/205. Coming up today, the infamous New York City jail at Rikers Island is set to close in the year 2026. The jail hosts about 7,000 inmates per night, but it is a symbol of abuse and neglect. The city is right to close it, but the plans to replace it with 4 smaller jails may not be sufficient. We will also talk about the English expression uphill battle, and JR has a song of the week. Quick bonus lesson for you before we start. I thought you might want to know the difference between jail and prison. In the United States, we typically have different types of facilities for different purposes. Jail is the place you go when you get arrested. You might have to spend a night in jail as you wait for a hearing. In some cases, you need to stay in jail while your trial is going on. If you are convicted and sentenced to just a few weeks, you probably serve your time in a jail. A prison, by contrast, is where you go to serve your sentence if it's longer than just a few days or a few weeks. If you are convicted of a crime and need to serve a 5-year sentence, for example, you go to prison. A prison is designed to house inmates for longer periods of time, whereas jails are designed to handle a high volume of people frequently coming in and going out. One of our listeners, Chris, suggested in the comments section of a previous episode that I talk about Piper, Alex, and Gloria from Orange is the New Black. In that show, Litchfield is a federal prison. It's where people go after they are convicted of federal crimes to serve their extended sentences. Now, in English, we often use the word jail informally to mean either jail or prison. So, he spent 5 years in jail. You might hear someone say that. What they really mean is that the person spent 5 years in prison, but we don't tend to make that distinction in informal speech. We tend to just say jail as a catch-all. So now you are prepared for this episode about one of America's largest jails. The New York City Council has voted to close America's most notorious jail, Rikers Island. If you've ever watched an American crime show like Law and Order, you've probably heard the word Rikers used as shorthand for jail. With dozens of buildings spread across a sprawling 400-acre site on an island in the East River between Queens and the Bronx, Rikers hosts most of New York City's short-term prisoners, those serving short sentences and those awaiting trial. On any given night, 7,000 people are involuntary guests at the city's largest jail. When it opened in the 1930s, it was heralded as the most perfect prison system in the world and a model for humane incarceration. Today, it is notorious for abuse, neglect, violence, and mismanagement. By 2026, it will close its doors for the last time, its prisoners relocated to 4 new, smaller local jails. The reasons for the closure are many. First, Rikers is bordering on inhumane. Jail is not a fun place to be, and it's not meant to be. But Rikers is unusual for its stunning abuse, neglect, and violence that take place inside its walls. Closing the jail and relocating all the corrections officers and prisoners won't solve this problem by itself, but it would help simply by breaking up the culture and splitting the jail population into 4 smaller locations. Second, Rikers doesn't serve its purpose very well. Jail, as I mentioned before, is a place you go for a short stay. It helps to be near the courthouse where your trial is taking place, near your family, and near your lawyer's office. Rikers is not near anything. It's on an island by itself, accessible by only a single bus and a single bridge for family members. Prisoners going to trial have long bus rides, which can be delayed in traffic. It's common for prisoners to miss their court dates because their bus was late, prolonging their stay in jail even longer. Families labor to visit loved ones, and lawyers have long commutes to visit their clients. Finally, the idea of incarceration has changed over the years, and the buildings that house inmates should also change. The new jails will have facilities better able to cope with addiction, mental health issues, and reintegration programs. They will have fewer solitary confinement cells. A city councilwoman in New York said that Rikers doesn't have cells, it has cages. I'm sure at some point it made sense to keep all the prisoners in America's biggest city in just one location, but it doesn't make sense now. Closing Rikers is a good idea, but it's not going to be easy. For one thing, the 4 new jails will only house about 3,000 inmates. That's far fewer than the 10,000-bed Rikers Island. The city would have to reduce its jail population by about half in just 6 years. The city says this is possible. For one thing, New York's crime rate has been steadily falling for decades, and the mayor believes this trend will continue. For another, New York is planning to lock up fewer inmates. No longer are people put in jail for possessing small amounts of marijuana. The city is also planning to institute more programs on reintegration, addiction counseling, and mental health in an effort to reduce the number of people in the system. Cash bail is being eliminated in New York as well. I don't know how it works in other countries, but in America, when you are arrested, a judge determines if you are allowed to go free while you wait for your trial. For many arrestees, their options are to post bail, essentially pay a deposit of money to the government, or wait for their trial in jail. The cash bail system is designed to prevent defendants from running away and skipping their trials. However, it leads to very unequal outcomes. Wealthier defendants can go free, while poorer defendants often wait for their trials in jail and suffer the consequences. Eliminating the system of cash bail will, the city hopes, reduce their jail population. Still, it is a bit of a risk. The new programs designed to reduce the jail population sound good in theory, but they haven't been tested on such a large scale. And even if the city does manage to reduce its jail population by the amount necessary, it wouldn't have any flexibility to respond to an increase in crime if one comes in the future. The city faces an uphill battle. You can imagine that the residents of those neighborhoods are coming out in force to oppose new jail construction in their backyards. Law and Order, SVU, is one of my favorite shows, and Rikers Island features prominently in that show. I wouldn't say it's one of the best shows out there, but if I've had a long day or if I'm not feeling well and I just want to lay on the couch and relax, SVU is the show that I turn to. I'd like to say hi to a few listeners today. Levi from Sao Paulo is in IT and listens to improve at his job. Also, Delmas from Nicaragua is listening to get better at work too. Are you part of our email community? If you are, then you're already getting an extra English word or phrase delivered right to your inbox every Monday and Thursday. The extra word for today's episode is uphill battle. If you're not on the list, then you're missing out. JR sends out an email with each episode, and we also include an explanation of one English phrase or expression in addition to the one we discuss on the program. Over the course of a year, that's 104 new English phrases for you. So make sure you're signed up to get those bonus words by visiting plainenglish.com/mail, M-A-I-L. Actually, I just made a quick mistake. I said that the bonus word was uphill battle, but it's not. That's the expression we're talking about here on the program, uphill battle. We say this when someone has a difficult task, when success is not assured. Here's how you heard it. The city faces an uphill battle in getting the jails approved. That's because the people who live and work in those areas are not going to be too happy about getting new neighbors. They will oppose the construction in public hearings and so forth. So the city faces an uphill battle. They will probably get what they want, but it won't be easy, and there's always a chance that this won't work. We often say this when there is some type of opposition to a task or an idea. For example, I could try to squat 225 pounds at the gym next week. That's difficult for me, but possible. Well, for one rep anyway. However, nobody is trying to stop me. And for that reason, we don't say I face an uphill battle in the gym. I just have a difficult task. Now, last week, the World Series of Baseball wrapped up. The World Series is a best-of-7 series. The teams play until one team wins 4 games for a maximum of 7 games. The Washington Nationals won the first 2 games, and the Houston Astros faced an uphill battle trying to win the whole series. They had already lost 2 games. In order to win the series, they needed to win 4 out of the next 6 games. Not impossible, but they faced an uphill battle. It's an uphill battle because the other team is trying to stop them. And in fact, the Astros did not win after all. They faced an uphill battle and they lost it. Justin Trudeau will face an uphill battle to get his agenda passed in Canada, though he will remain as Prime Minister after the most recent elections. His party is weakened, and he has to form a coalition with a smaller party just to stay in power. Not impossible, but his job is a lot harder now that his party is weakened in government. Another example from politics, Boris Johnson is facing an uphill battle to get his Brexit plan approved. You might preview a difficult task and say, this is going to be an uphill battle. I'm in the middle of switching email providers. I'll tell you more about that on Monday. But I'm switching email providers, and that means I'm going to have to convince JR to learn a whole new system for when he sends out the episode emails each week. It's possible that JR will embrace the change, but I have a feeling it might be an uphill battle for me. Okay, today's song of the week is Old Habits Die Hard by Ali X. I heard from Rafael in Paraná, Brazil, and he said that after listening to plain English, he's able to understand more of the words in his favorite songs, which is great. And I asked him for his favorite song in English, and it's this one, Old Habits Die Hard by Ali X. That's an expression in itself. It means it's hard to give up old habits, habits that you've had for a long time. So check that out on Spotify or Deezer or YouTube or wherever you listen to music. And thanks to Rafael from Paraná, Brazil. That's all for today's episode. A bit of a different topic today, but now you are up to speed on your incarceration vocabulary. You might remember a few episodes ago, we talked about the midnight marathon in sweltering Qatar. On Monday, we'll be talking about how the tiny desert nation is preparing to host the 2022 World Cup. So make sure you come right back here for that one. And if you're serious about improving in English, then I encourage you to check out Plain English Plus. One of the best features of Plain English Plus is our video lessons. With each episode, twice a week, we highlight one little piece of grammar or English usage, and we show you how to use it in a video lesson. And if you think it's just sitting back and watching, it's not. You get to write your own sentences right inside the video. And these videos show you the way to connect ideas, develop your thoughts, and sound more professional in your writing and speaking. If this sounds like what you need, then come check us out at plainenglish.com/plus, Plus. Thanks again for being with us as always, and we'll see you right back here on Monday.